They called themselves the Kings of Kings. From the deserts of Persia, they forged an empire that stretched from the Mediterranean to India. Led by rulers like Cyrus the Great, Darius and Xerxes, the Persian Empire became one of history's most powerful civilizations. This is the epic story of Persia's rise and its fall.
In the heart of ancient Iran, a new power was stirring. Rising from the Achaemenid dynasty, a lineage of local kings in the land of Anshan, came a figure destined to reshape the world: Cyrus the Great. The political landscape was dominated by the powerful Median Empire, ruled by Cyrus's own grandfather, King Astyages. Legend tells of a prophecy that Astyages' grandson would one day overthrow him, a fear that led the king to order the infant Cyrus's death. But fate intervened. Spared and raised in obscurity, Cyrus grew into a charismatic and brilliant leader. He masterfully unified the disparate Persian tribes who had long been vassals of the Medes, inspiring them with a vision of a united Persian identity. This coalition set the stage for a dramatic confrontation. By overthrowing the Median Empire, Cyrus didn't just seize a throne, he ignited a sweeping conquest of the ancient world, forging a new formidable power on the global stage. With the Medes subdued, Cyrus turned his gaze westward. His armies, a disciplined force of infantry and cavalry, marched against the fabulously wealthy kingdom of Lydia. Its king, Croesus, confident in an ambiguous prophecy from the oracle at Delphi, met Cyrus in battle. But Cyrus was a master of strategy. At the decisive Battle of Thymbra, he deployed a line of camels, whose unfamiliar scent panicked the elite Lydian cavalry, securing a stunning victory. Next lay the ultimate prize, the legendary city of Babylon, a metropolis protected by immense walls and the mighty Euphrates River. Rather than a prolonged siege, Cyrus's engineers cleverly diverted the river, allowing his troops to march into the city through the dry riverbed. But where other conquerors brought fire and slaughter, Cyrus brought a revolutionary approach. He entered Babylon not as a destroyer, but as a liberator, showing remarkable tolerance for the diverse peoples and their cherished customs. This groundbreaking philosophy of governance was immortalized on a small clay artifact known today as the Cyrus cylinder. Inscribed in Akkadian cuneiform, it was a formal declaration placed in the foundations of Babylon. More than just a record of conquest, it was a masterful piece of political communication. The text denounces the previous Babylonian king as impious and oppressive, while portraying Cyrus as a benevolent ruler chosen by Babylon's chief god Marduk. It goes on to detail his policies. He repatriated peoples exiled by the Babylonians, restored their religious sanctuaries, and abolished forced labor, seeking to improve the lives of all citizens. While calling it the world's first charter of human rights is a modern interpretation, its principles were unprecedented. It established a new model of empire built on consent and multicultural respect, a core component of his lasting legacy. Under his visionary rule, Persia transformed from a collection of tribes into the largest empire the world had yet seen. It was a multicultural superpower stretching from the shores of Greece to the mountains of India. To manage this vast domain, Cyrus laid the groundwork for an efficient administration, establishing provincial governors known as satraps and initiating the construction of the Royal Road, a vital artery for communication and trade. He founded a new capital at Pasargadae, a city renowned for its sophisticated formal gardens, the first example of the Persian paradise, a concept that would influence design for millennia. His reign, however, ended as it began, on the battlefield. Yet his influence endured. His tomb at Pasargadae, a simple but dignified structure, was later visited and honored by another great conqueror, Alexander the Great. A testament to the profound and enduring respect Cyrus commanded across the ancient world. Darius the Great expanded the empire to over 5 million square kilometers and revolutionized its administration through the satrap system. He built the Royal Road, a communication network that connected the vast empire, and created Persepolis as the ceremonial capital. His economic reforms and trade networks brought unprecedented wealth and prosperity to the Persian Empire.
The seeds of a world-altering conflict were sown when Athens supported the Ionian revolt against their Persian overlords. To the mighty emperor, Darius the Great, this was an unforgivable act of defiance. He vowed to punish the upstart city-state. In 490 BCE, his punitive expedition landed at Marathon, its numbers vastly superior to the Athenian force of around 10,000 soldiers. Yet, What the Greeks lacked in numbers, they made up for in discipline. Their heavily armored hoplites, a terrifying wall of shields and spears, charged across the plain and crashed into the lighter armored Persian infantry. The shocking victory was a profound statement. The mighty Persian Empire was not invincible, and the spirit of Greek freedom was a force to be reckoned with. The humiliation at Marathon was a wound that festered. A decade later, Darius's son, Xerxes I, inherited not just the throne, but also his father's quest for vengeance. Driven by imperial pride, Xerxes spent years planning an invasion on a scale the world had never seen. He amassed a colossal multi-ethnic army of hundreds of thousands, with soldiers from every corner of his domain. To move this city-sized force into Europe, Xerxes commissioned an unprecedented feat of engineering, 2 massive pontoon bridges across the Hellespont Strait, using hundreds of ships as a floating roadway. This was the full might of the Achaemenid Empire on the move, a seemingly unstoppable tide determined to succeed where Darius had failed and bring all of Greece under the Persian yoke. As Xerxes' horde advanced, a fragile Greek alliance led by Sparta chose to make a stand at the narrow coastal pass of Thermopylae, a natural bottleneck that neutralized the Persian numbers. Here, the Spartan king Leonidas, with his 300 hoplites and several thousand allies, held firm for 3 days. The Greek phalanx, a wall of bronze and courage, repelled wave after wave of attackers, including Xerxes' elite immortals. The stalemate was only broken by betrayal, when a local showed the Persians a hidden path to outflank them. Realizing the position was lost, Leonidas dismissed most of his allies. He and his 300 Spartans, along with 700 defiant Thespians, chose to fight to the last man, a heroic sacrifice that bought precious time for Greece to rally. The sacrifice at Thermopylae was not in vain. After the Persians sacked and evacuated Athens, the Athenian statesman Themistocles devised an audacious naval plan. He lured Xerxes' massive fleet into the narrow straits of Salamis, where their numbers became a liability. The smaller, more maneuverable Athenian triremes, with their devastating bronze rams, decimated the Persian armada as Xerxes watched in horror. The following year at the Battle of Plataea, a unified Greek army led by the Spartans shattered the remaining Persian land forces. These twin victories ended Persian ambitions in Europe, securing Greek independence. This triumph ushered in the golden age of Athens, allowing the concepts of democracy, philosophy, and art to flourish, and ultimately shape the foundations of Western civilization.
Persepolis became the jewel of the empire, where tribute flowed from across the known world and cultures merged in unprecedented exchange. But with great wealth came corruption. Rebellions erupted across the provinces, and the once mighty Persian kingship began to weaken. In the 4th century BCE, a young Macedonian king named Alexander would exploit these weaknesses and bring down the mighty Persian Empire.
The final act for the Achaemenid Empire began not from within, but from the west, in the form of a brilliant and relentlessly ambitious Macedonian king, Alexander the Great. Crossing into Asia in 334 BCE, he declared a war of revenge for the Persian invasions of centuries past. The first major test came at the Battle of Issus. On a narrow coastal plain that neutralized Persia's numerical advantage, Alexander executed a masterful high-risk charge aimed directly at King Darius III. Faced with the terrifying velocity of the Macedonian advance, Darius lost his nerve and fled, abandoning his army and family. 2 years later at Gaugamela, Darius assembled a colossal army to crush Alexander. But again, Alexander's tactical genius proved supreme. He countered the fearsome Persian scythe chariots, then exploited a gap in the enemy formation, once more driving his cavalry like a spear tip straight for Darius. And once more the King of Kings fled, shattering his army's morale and sealing the empire's military fate. With Darius later assassinated by his own satraps, Alexander marched into the heartland of Persia. He arrived at Persepolis, the stunning ceremonial capital built to awe the world. For months the Macedonians occupied the city, marveling at its immense treasures and the grand Apollona palace. Then, in an act debated for millennia, the city was destroyed. Was it a cold, calculated political statement, a clear signal that the Achaemenid dynasty was finished? Or was it, as some sources claim, a spontaneous act of drunken revenge for the burning of Athens, instigated during a wild banquet? Whatever the cause, the result was the same. The magnificent palaces, repositories of 2 centuries of history, were consumed by a catastrophic fire. As the grand structures turned to ash, The Achaemenid dynasty, which had reigned for over 200 years, officially collapsed, marking the fiery, tragic end of an era.
Though the empire fell to Alexander's sword, its legacy proved indestructible. Alexander himself admired Persian culture, adopting many of its customs and initiating a fusion of Greek and Eastern traditions that defined the new Hellenistic age. The empire's practical innovations were too effective to discard. The satrapy system of provincial governance was maintained by Alexander's successors, its efficiency later influencing the administrative structures of the Roman Empire. The Royal Road and its remarkable postal service set a standard for communication that would not be surpassed for centuries. But perhaps its most profound legacy was ideological. The principles of tolerance and multiculturalism, first articulated in the Cyrus cylinder, became a powerful concept that echoed through the ages. The Persian idea of a stable, just, and interconnected world did not die in the flames of Persepolis. It was a seed planted in the consciousness of civilization, shaping the world we know today. Subscribe now for more epic history documentaries. Next, the Aztec Empire, Rise and Fall of a Civilization.